Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Tell Me Everything Frog Girl Fridays. I'm your host, Danielle Spinelli, and I am so excited for this one. We are focusing on shipper education. The shipper education is going to be the whole month of February. So excited for that. If you guys have, this is stupid. If you guys have shippers, of course you guys have shippers. Forward this over to your shippers. Let's do some education on their front. I think it's really important for them to understand the gravity of what's happening in cargo theft and just knowing what to do. Because I think a lot of times we can tell them, hey, this is the stats, this is what's happening, but them not having the pieces on what should I do to fix this is really frustrating. So let's get better at educating our shippers, not just having all the tools on the brokerage side. We need to be focusing on that too. Jessica Renner is coming on. She's from Jarrett. They have developed like such a great system in educating. They have like the best SOPs I've ever seen. If you need SOPs, she gives her email and stuff in the episode at the end there. So reach out to her and she's got some great stuff. I'm using their shipper one coming up here too in the newsletter. So be sure to make sure you guys subscribe, follow, do all the things on LinkedIn and YouTube and Spotify, Apple, all the things, right? But the newsletter one is a good one too because there is some great. I try to focus more on SOPs than just writing news articles because those are boring. But the SOPs are good. And then if you guys have suggestions, just let me know. Anyways, let me tell you a little bit about Jessica. So Jessica is very accomplished. She's very well respected in the industry. At Jarrett companies. So she handles their cargo claims and risk management. She oversees the company's claims. She's been with over a decade of experience. She's very well versed in LTL and truckload cargo claims and manages disputes. Beyond Jarrett, she does a lot of other things too. She's the director of communications for Proclaim. She also has official publications on CCPAC, or maybe you say that a little differently. I don't know. But she sits on board of directors for Transportation and Logistics Council, which I am going to that conference and I will be speaking there too. That's going to be in Franklin, Tennessee in March something. I'll try to link that in there. But she sits on that board too. Going to be great education on that one. So if you guys are in Tennessee or nearby, come up and hang out with me. That'd be so fun. Anyways, let's jump into this episode. I'm so excited for all the things shipper related and education. So another thing as well, not to plug my company, but My Care Portal, we are doing a webinar in January. So if you missed it, be sure to go back on our website under My Care Portal resources, webinars. It'll be on there. We'll be doing something very similar to this episode, but kind of more on the shipper front too, and giving them this as a broker is what I do to vet and kind of being able to educate them and becoming that expert. So we'll be talking about that too. Anyways, let's jump in it. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I'm so happy you're here. It's been so great to get to know you and all that things too. How are you?
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, it's been really great to get to know you. I was so happy that I got to meet you at the
I know.
CargoNet and Travelers Summit. I'd heard your name, seen your name, taken your webinars, but to actually meet you in person was awesome.
I
So
know. Same here. So I loved it. And you guys won an award at that conference too. And what was it
we
called?
did. It was Best in Cargo Security
Okay, that's what I
for
thought. I couldn't remember
2024.
the
Yeah.
words. So I was like, I'll let you say that.
Yep.
Well, cool. So let's start off just real quick and kind of have you give your intro and talk about a little bit about yourself and your company, and then we'll jump into all the fun things.
Sure. Well, my name is Jessica Renner. I am the Cargo Claims and Risk Manager here at Jarrett Logistics Systems. We are a third-party logistics company, but there's actually a lot of branches of Jarrett under the Jarrett umbrella. We have the 3PL side. We have Jarrett Trucking, so we do have our own fleet. We have several warehouses across the country. We have our brokerage, which obviously I am really hands-on with that process.
Huh.
And then we have Jarrett Fleet Services is 24/7, 365 roadside assistance, truck maintenance, repair, all that stuff. But my department handles all the cargo claims on behalf of our customers. And then I assist with all the risk management strategies across the companies.
Love it. Yeah, you guys are busy, and winning that award is a big deal too, because that means you guys know what you're doing. So that's why I'm so happy you're on here, because we were talking really just about how you would educate your shippers. Because a lot of this, it's like, if only the shippers would walk out there and just do what they're supposed to be doing, right? Perfect world, that would happen. All cargo theft would be gone, except for straight theft. I think that will always be a thing. But all the strategic theft and the fraud, all that would disappear in a perfect world, of course. But really big on educating shippers and stuff like that too. So I want to jump into that today. So I have a couple questions for you and then kind of have you give your spiel
Sure.
on how you guys do.
Sure.
So first, I guess let's start off like, what would you say when you're speaking with shippers? Like, what's the biggest red flag that they should be looking for, like right when somebody gets there, or what would be, I guess, like if they're training their dock workers, what's something that they should really try to not miss?
Sure. And I want to start off by saying that, brokers, as a broker, we can only do so much, right? Because we are not at the shipping location at the time of pickup. So Jarrett really focuses on educating our customers so that they know the right things to do at the right times, right?
Right.
So to answer your question, first and foremost, you have to verify that the driver and carrier that has arrived to your shipping location is, in fact, the carrier and driver you booked the load with. And in order to do so, you need to have a ton of information up front. So whether you're a shipper that goes direct with the carriers booking your loads, or whether you're a shipper that has a broker doing it for you, this applies to everybody, right? So you need driver name, CDL number. You need the carrier name, MC number, DOT number. You need the truck, trailer, and license plate numbers. If the truck or trailer has any special markings on it, logos, designs, anything like that, that is all great information to have up front and actually necessary in this day and age. And then along with the VINs. The VINs are also something that's very important to have. I mean, we check VIN verification on MCP all the time.
Yeah.
So it just is necessary to gather this information. So once you have that from either the carrier or the broker prior to pickup, once that driver arrives, you need to make sure that all of it aligns with what you were given prior to pickup, right? And if none of it, or if all of it but one doesn't align, then you need to pause. You need to not load that carrier, because that is a huge red flag. That would be like the number one precursor for fraud these days, right? Is when the information is just not aligning at the time of pickup. Another red flag would be sense of urgency. So these bad actors and thieves, they bet on one person making a fly by the seat, that way they can get through, right? So if they're saying, I need to be loaded now, the dispatcher already approved this, we can fix the paperwork later on. No. That doesn't work. You need to stop. You need to pause. You need to call a trusted person at that point. But that is a big red flag. A third red flag I always stress is paying attention to detail. When the documentation looks right, but doesn't exactly read right. So, they'll replace one number in their MC number, change one letter in their email domain, or have an accent across the I where it wouldn't normally have one. They're making those slight changes that when reviewing anything quickly, because, the shipping process, the whole transportation process in general is very fast paced, right? Got to get the load moving. Everything is hot. It's got to get there, all that. I mean, we've heard it all.
Right.
And that's what they're counting on.
Yeah.
That is how they're counting on getting through to steal your freight, right?
Right. And really, it's kind of funny because like even on my end, like with MCP, if we get like a carrier, if we suspect like something's happening and let's say we shut down the MC, because a lot of times if something's compromised or we confirm something's stolen, the carrier gets shut down in our system. So a lot of times whenever they're calling in and they're like freaking out, I'm talking like freaking out. They're freaking out. I need this right away. And they're like trying to pressure us and like, I'm going to sue you. And like all like being so dramatic. You're like, really? This is weird,
Really?
right? They want us to make a mistake. And just like you said, like making a quick thing. And like sometimes even as a broker, if you hear like a quick, like, hey, I need this rate sheet right now, I'm ready to go. And you're like, hold up. Like, I'm not done vetting you yet. Right. Like they can wait 5 minutes. It's going to be fine.
You know what? I'm also going to stress this because, and this isn't exactly something that is done at pickup. It's actually done beforehand when you have customers placing purchase orders with said shipper, right? I'm seeing and hearing throughout the industry, both truckload and LTL, where bad actors are stealing companies' identities and they're placing fraudulent POs with shippers. And so, even if you're a broker or a carrier, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. The carrier picks it up, they're unwitting, and they deliver it to where they're supposed to, but they're delivering it to thieves, and the shipper doesn't find out until their invoices are not paid, right?
Why?
So
That's
shippers
kind of
need to
you
pay
now. Wow.
attention. Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. They need
Makes
to
sense
vet
though.
their vendors and customers too,
Yeah.
because again, they can create an email with the same domain as you're used to seeing come in from that company. You might not recognize the name because they're probably a new employee, but they're stealing identities and they're placing fraudulent POs just to steal the shipment. So that was another thing I wanted to
Wow.
include in this that I've
Yeah.
seen. The last red flag I'm going to go over is if the driver is non-compliant. So my suggestion for all shippers at the time of pickup, after you verify all that information, is take a picture, ask the driver to stand in front of his rig, blocking any MC number, logo, or anything like that, distinguishing characteristics, and just get a one photo of the driver, the truck, and the trailer. You should already have gotten a picture, like scanned the driver's CDL in, and I would also document the license plates as well. But ask the driver to, if you can take a picture. If the driver says no and is not compliant or pushing back regarding the shipper's shipping and loading process, their internal process, those are all red flags. And at that point, you need to pause, not load them, because legitimate carriers are not going to fight you on verifying who they are,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. No,
So,
I'm big.
and the biggest mistake that shippers are making are treating this process as more like a routine handoff rather than a security checkpoint. Strategic theft with thieves, they don't need to break in.
Yeah.
They just need to be like waved through, right?
And it's
So
easy
making
for the
sure you're
trip.
following your strict processes are extremely important. And the other thing that I hear and see all the time is just because a truck shows up to pick up your freight does not mean they're legitimate.
Right.
So,
Yeah, even sometimes you'll hire like a good carrier as like a broker or something, and then who shows up is totally different. And how do they even it may even not even be where the guy that you hired was even malicious, but they found out information about the load because they called in on a posting, and your person just gave all the information out. Like, go ahead and
yep.
tell them go ahead and give them the PO number while you're at it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why are
Yeah.
you telling me so much information over the phone? It blows my mind. Like, don't be
Yeah.
telling them commodity, don't be telling them like all the exact stuff. Don't be doing that.
Yep. No
Uh,
value. And if you ship a high risk or high valued commodity, I mean, minimal information
yes.
on the bill of lading, right? And then you definitely shouldn't be relaying that information to the driver. They
Yeah.
don't need it.
Well, I on one hand though, I do like it whenever they know that you're handling sensitive stuff because at the like whenever it's straight cargo theft as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned. Like whenever I was a
Yeah.
rep and I did copper back in the day,
Yep.
straight cargo theft was a big thing. And we were like, hey, you gotta
Mhm.
drive 250 miles out. Like you need to be careful whenever you leave your truck. Like it's big. I had a driver held at gunpoint for it. And so
Wow.
it can happen. And I think the driver at least knowing, hey, this is what you're hauling and these are the risks. And sometimes talking that through. And I like educating the driver too. Like I know you're
Mhm.
big on the shipper part, but like
We
I
do.
like talking to the driver, like, hey, have you ever done a high value load before? No? Okay, well, this is exactly how you should handle this going forward.
Mhm.
And if they have, then I ask the questions and because a lot of times even the bad guys will say, yeah, I've done this before. And you're like, okay, well, tell me what you do exactly to make sure the shipment's more secure. And what do you do when you go to a truck stop? And how far do you drive? And like you ask
Correct.
them stuff and eventually you'll see them kind of crumbling apart and you're like,
Mhm. Something's
uh,
a little fishy there.
yeah, exactly. Kind of backing that up, I think every broker in the whole wide world will say, and carrier will be like, we do all these things right. We check all these things. We tell our shippers and they never go out there and do these things. And I don't want to, piss off my shipper and lose the business, or I don't want this and that. So I think it's important to understand how you guys are having success with educating your shippers, because it is a hard conversation, especially when you're turning and burning and you're moving freight super fast. So how do you guys put that at like the initial, as soon as you start getting business, or is that something that's ongoing with the shippers, or how do you guys initiate that with your process?
So most of our customers are enterprise, what we call enterprise customers. So they're under contract. We have a whole implementation process. We get all their business, if not the majority, like it's all contract based, right?
Okay.
So I am actually brought in during the implementation process now,
Cool.
and we just believe in training, right? Have our SOPs in order, train our customers. Am lucky enough that Jarrett will pay for me to go on site to customer locations to provide in-house training.
Yeah.
That is the way. And then, of course, our brokers, when talking with the shipper, prior to pickup, they're educating them on what they need to do again. But, we're only as good as what they actually do. So
Right.
we can walk a dog to water, but we can't make the dog
Yeah.
drink it, right? So we're lucky though, in most cases, the shippers are doing what they're supposed to do.
But I think almost that educational piece is what's huge. Like, I don't think somebody maliciously wants something to get stolen, or they
No,
don't want to go out and take the extra second to go walk to the truck. You know what I mean? Like, I think if
right.
they understand the gravity of like, hey, this is happening this often, this is the scale of it, this is how easy it can be for you to be the victim. Because I think everybody has that mentality of like, well, I've never, it's never happened to me, right? Like, I don't need to do all
Yep.
these things. And then once it
Yep.
happens to you, you're like, well, yeah.
Yep. Yep.
I think even just the educational piece, and I have heard of others where in their shipper, so like when they go on site, they learn
Hmm.
exactly what they do
Yep.
and then add that into their shipper contract. Like, hey, on my side, my responsibility is ABC. On your side, you guys are already doing this, so this is your responsibility. So kind of putting it where like, hey, I'm going to do my part, you're going to do your part. If one of us fails at this, then and a load gets stolen, then the responsibility isn't fully on me or fully on you know what I mean.
Yep. Yep.
Um, I think that's big.
That's very smart contract language.
Yeah.
Yes. I would agree and I would recommend that. Yeah, for sure.
So whenever you do go on site, I know you mentioned like you have those papers and you gave those to me. So I'm planning on having like an article written on the Fraud Girl or Tell Me Everything's newsletter too. Just something similar, not a
Oh,
word for word what you guys do, but something similar, because I think what you guys can offer education wise is huge. But kind of walk me through, I guess, what exactly you're training them on, or like that perfect pickup scenario, and
yeah.
what they should be, their dock workers and things like that should be looking for.
Sure. So when a truck driver shows up at the shipping location for the shipment, as I previously mentioned, you need to make sure that you had all of that driver carrier information prior to pickup. So the first thing that they need to do is verify that information
Uh-huh.
and get photos of the driver and the truck and the trailer. None of that, or if one part of that does not align,
Yeah.
then I would recommend reaching out immediately to a trusted contact at either the carrier or, reach out to your broker right away to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes, yeah, the driver gets sick last minute and they have to send in a new one to make sure your
Yeah.
load. While they're red flags, it's not end all say all, right? So in that case, then you want to reach out to your trusted contacts to verify. Now, if you can't get a hold of those trusted contacts, then at that point, I would bring in a supervisor to have another set of eyes on it. Ask the driver questions about his history, just kind of pausing the process, because a lot of times bad actors, when you slow down the process
Yeah.
and they are not able to get in and get out as quickly as they want, their process starts to crumble.
Yeah. They
And
get
they get
nervous.
paranoid and they know that there's eyes on them and that you're verifying and all that stuff. So what may have started out as a what was going to be a stolen load may not end with a stolen load due to those additional steps that you're
Yeah.
taking. Now, the carrier as a whole needs to be vetted prior to them coming in and picking it up. We use MCP as our primary vetting and onboarding platform, while we use others as well. That is our main. But when it comes to the actual point of pickup, that's what needs to happen. And if you
Yeah.
can't verify everything, the supervisor can't verify everything, then you don't load the shipment.
Right.
You
Yeah.
don't let it leave your facility, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to keep in mind that the key thing to understand about pickup is about a perfect pickup is not speed, right? It's consistency. When your load follows the same process, theft risk becomes a lot less.
Right. I love it. Yeah, and I think like you were mentioning with like speaking to the driver. So sometimes obviously that's difficult with like the English,
Yeah.
English barriers, but that also goes into where a lot of shippers they're wanting to hold shippers accountable for English proficiency. Having that conversation, slowing that down. What's hard, obviously, it depends on like the type of like if we're talking like a mom and pop shop, right? Obviously, they got more
Mhm.
time to do things. If we're talking like an enormous warehouse, like a cold storage or whatever, I mean, they're turning and burning as fast as they can. They
Yeah.
literally do not care about anything, and they're just
Right.
they'll grab what I think really the biggest thing too is like you're mentioning with the marks on the truck and trailer, the scanning of the CDL. As long as like that CDL matches the face, even if it's a fake CDL, like I was talking to the CHP guys and they were saying, as long as it's the picture, we have facial recognition, like we can look up
Yep.
all this stuff.
Yep.
And then I think shippers having, especially if you're handling a high risk, high value freight, you have to have camera systems. Like for the love of God,
Yep.
even a ring camera you can get, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's so, cheap and ineffi like, so easy to do nowadays. It's like, why is this not more of a thing? And that you'll find, like, pixelated pictures. I'm like, "How? How is this still a thing?" At my
Yeah.
house, I have better security than a shipment going for $1,000,000. Like,
I don't understand it, Danielle. I don't, but, I guess, shippers have to look at the ROI.
right,
So if they don't have theft experiences, then a lot of them don't feel the need to make those additional purchases. But for the shippers out there that do have the high value, high risk commodities, I mean, it's a must. Tracking devices,
yeah,
cameras at the dock to capture. I would love to see our warehouses eventually get like facial recognition at the time of pickup. It's just there's a lot of tools out there to be used, and shippers need to take advantage of that.
yeah. And I think a lot of times, I mean, they're not going to conferences and seeing all the things that we're seeing. Like at that Cargo Theft Summit,
Right.
like there were some shippers there, but like really, like you're seeing all the different equipment out there. And I think even just
Mhm.
that educational piece, going back to that, is like, hey, by the way, I learned about this tech that's like this. I'm sure there's other companies like this, but I met these guys. You guys should look into it.
Yep.
I just think that's big as you being the advisor and you being the specialist because when you become that specialist to that shipper, then it's where you're so trusted that like even if you're higher on a rate, it's like these guys know they know everything. They know all the things. I ask them all the questions. And so
Yep.
you're more of like a buddy system where they're more likely to give you the freight. So to me, it's a
Yep.
win-win in all freights, but obviously it's hard to that's where going back to like a relationship is key really in all aspects of our industry, and I wish we'd get all the way back to that, but
It really is. And the people you have to know people in this industry. You really do. Because as our good buddy Scott Cornell always says, there's no silver bullet. If you work in this industry, you are most likely going to see it happen at one point in time. And so you need to be prepared for that instance. You need to know people, you need to have their contact information. And of course, you need a plan to stick to in the case that it does follow.
yeah.
Got to follow those steps.
Gotta be and you
Just
gotta be
transit recovery.
yeah, at that Cargo Theft Summit, one thing that I took away from that or I took away I honestly I learned more
I
from
did.
that summit than I did at any other conference the whole year,
I agree.
but one of the things that I loved is that they talked about running, like, fake scenarios, like, fake cargo theft scenarios,
Hmm.
so let's be prepared as if like this, when this, if this happens, hopefully it never happens. If this happens, you have a plan in place and you have, not only just have your SOPs written down, but like actively practicing it. So it becomes that second nature. And same with like, carrier vetting too. I think a lot of people with carrier vetting, they put it on just the compliance team. And I'm big on it needs to be at even the smallest level. They need to be educated on that because sometimes they
Absolutely.
hear things and they, like you get those spidey senses when you're directly dealing with the carrier.
Yes. They're the frontline workers,
Yeah.
right? They need to. And I hear all the time from our brokers, our broker team that, we use Wirebee too, but they'll get a yellow phone number or even a green. And sometimes things just don't feel right.
Right.
Trust your sense.
Yeah. To me, so I met with somebody the other day, wanted like to sign on to MCP or whatever. And they were like, yeah, I had 4 loads stolen. And every single time I knew it in my gut. I knew it. I'm like, you can't, a tech cannot give you that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That
Right.
silver bullet and people really depending on tech. I hate that. I'm like, it takes
Mhm.
human and tech. I mean, obviously, like I'm a huge tech lover as I work for a tech company. I love it, and I think it should be making your process more efficient because at the end of the day, finding the best trucks rate wise, or quality wise, all the things is you booking those trucks at the beginning of the day. And so it does take you being that speed, but you like you said, slowing down even in that vetting process is huge.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Those few extra minutes that it takes to verify the VIN, the insurance,
yeah,
the carrier, it means a lot. Like
yeah,
it can be the difference between your load getting to your customer and your load not getting to your customer.
right.
So,
And losing a full account. I mean, you can lose it's not just one shipment, and even on the shipper level, and
mhm.
something else they talked about at the Cargo Theft Summit was it's not just that shipment. Like, I think a lot of shippers are like, "Oh, well, even if a load gets stolen, they'll pay me for it," right? Well, not
Yeah,
only do you have to get paid for it, but then you have to remake that product, and so instead of making revenue from the new what you're putting in production, that would be new revenue, you're having to replace that revenue by giving that back to the real receiver.
correct.
And so it's like backlog and backlog. And it would be, I wonder if I think they said they were trying to put together some stats on like one, like, let's say $1,000 shipment. How much does that actually cost a shipper in the grand scheme of things? Cause it's a lot
Mhm.
more than, I
It's
mean,
a
there's
lot more.
a lot more than that. Yeah.
And what I don't understand is why the level and the concern is not out there on every news outlet. I
Oh,
mean, cargo theft and fraud, this is affecting every last single person in the United States.
million.
We know that. Now we just need everybody else to see and understand the lasting effects of what the theft
Yeah,
creates.
for sure. I mean, they're not just eating that cost. I mean, it is going
No,
back on. I saw somewhere where it was like 20%, and now I can't find that anywhere. So I don't know if that's accurate. It's something out there where it's like
I
well,
believe it.
and John. I mean, because it's not only just cargo theft too, but retail theft. Like all of that,
Yep.
they're adding back into their product price. And I think retail theft has a much bigger spotlight when it's a lot less. I mean, if you think about it, it's like $1,000 gets you, a felony charge. For us, it's like 1 million. It's like really
Yeah.
it's a totally
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
it's wild. So if I'm a shipper and I get the spidey senses and I'm like, something doesn't line up, other than calling the broker or like saying I'm not loading you, if this is like hot shipment, I am like desperado. What do I
Right.
do?
The most important thing I can say to shippers is if it feels off, if you sense or see those red flags that I mentioned earlier, stop the pickup at that time. Pausing the load is not a failure. It actually shows
Yeah,
control. Right. And what's more important, the cargo shipping that day and never arriving to your customer or
yeah,
shipping a day later or even, half a day later in the afternoon and getting to your customer,
right.
right? I mean, that's got to be the most important. So the first step would be to slow everything down. Don't let the driver's sense of urgency stop you from performing every last single step you have in your internal loading process, shipping process, right? And call your broker. If you are a shipper that goes with a broker, or if you're a shipper that goes direct with the carriers, then call the carrier. Call your trusted
Yeah.
person and verify always. Like, I don't even want to say trust but verify, because you can't even
Fair.
trust to begin with these days. Right? But if you're going to be working with that carrier, and if you're going to be booking loads with your customers' freight going on them, then you need to at least have one trusted person
Yeah.
at that carrier that you can count on.
Oh,
Right?
yeah. And I think if the
So,
contact if they're saying like, "Oh, that so and so's sick and this," like, there also needs to be, like, a backup option, like, I think the biggest thing for that sentence is, like, as a broker,
mhm,
because a lot of times it's just one broker that deals with that, and, like, for some reason, brokers don't put their FMC or, their phone number on the FMCSA contact info. Drives me crazy.
yeah,
But anyways, I think having as a broker, you being like, "Hey, my backup is so and so. So if you can't get in touch with me, my backup is here," and
yep,
providing that information proactively to your shipper. And one other thing I wanted to quickly just say was, I think another important thing to remember as a shipper is if you are vulnerable and the bad guys do get in there, you're like on you're on their list now.
oh yeah,
I know that it's easy for me to steal something here. So let's just say if you don't slow down and they're pressuring you, like I mean they probably have a CRM just for them with stolen freight that they
oh
keep,
yeah,
like how we have it to sell to. Like
yeah.
I'm sure there's notes in there saying like just press them a little bit harder, try to speed things up, and I mean they're
Yep.
putting notes in there just like we're putting notes in on our carriers.
Once they find out your weakness, they
Oh,
are going to use that to benefit them and steal your loads.
for sure. And I think we've seen that the most with cluster theft, them realizing the way that you do inventory and stuff, and
Yeah.
they're learning everything about your company and then just totally exploiting you. Wild times, wild times. Do you
Yep.
feel like
Yep.
it's getting harder?
It is. And I want to say to shippers to remember that the worst outcome with delaying your pickup is just that. The alternative to that is a stolen load. So, which is way more expensive and has far greater consequences, right? So,
Well, even on their product value, I mean, you being able to buy that off of like a sketch website or Facebook
yep.
Marketplace or eBay or whatever for pennies on the dollar, where I mean, you as a your product, your value goes down. Like you're probably having to bring down your rates because how are you going to sell against, especially like I think Nike saw the biggest thing with that, and they were
Yeah.
complaining most that they're having to change things because their shoes are online for like a quarter of the price, hiking it up, and yeah, people are just aren't paying that. They'll buy a fake one. Like I know people today that will say, I don't care. Pay for a fake one because I know they're overpricing me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's another red flag too. So I'm glad you brought that up. Is if it's too good to be true, it
Yeah.
probably is.
Right.
So if the cost that that carrier is requesting to carry that load is really low and
Mhm.
seems too good to be true, it's because they want your freight and to do nefarious things with it, right? So you just got to watch out for those little red flags too. Another one I didn't mention earlier is if a truck pulls in and their license plate is on the grill,
Oh my god.
zip tie,
My
or
god.
if they have placards, like a paper taped to the side of the truck door. I mean, I've seen it all while driving. I
For the
have
most
seen
part.
it all while driving. Those are all red flags. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are not a good carrier and won't pick up your freight at point A and deliver it to point B. But what it does tell you is that you need to dive deeper into them
Oh
to
yeah.
verify they are who they actually say they are.
And to me, that's like as a shipper, you should always have those pallet trackers on hand. And when you
Yeah.
see something like that, hey,
Yeah.
this guy, he does match everything. Everything is checking boxes, but I still am like, why does this guy have his license plate zip tied to his grill, or why does he have cardboard on the side? Like, what the heck is happening?
Right.
He checks everything. I have all his identity information. So some places even do fingerprints. I got his fingerprints tracker in there. Please.
Yes. They're not expensive. They are not expensive, and it doesn't mean, again, that they're a silver bullet or that they will
No.
100% of the time, prevent theft from occurring, but they will put you in a way better position to keep your cargo from getting stolen.
Yeah, I was talking to a shipper the other day, and I was saying, talking about pallet trackers, and I was like, the guys that we know at like the California Highway Patrol or any police people, basically, period. Most of their job is like paperwork and boring and stuff like that. So if you're like, hey, go track this guy, this is exactly where they're at. They're like, let's go, right? Like this is
Yeah.
the excitement of their job. They're more amped to go get your shipment when they see it going down the road than whenever it's just like, well, he picked up here and he should be here, but we don't really know where he is. Or like, you know what I mean? It's a lot harder for them to
Yeah.
even work on. So give
Well,
them that piece.
speaking of trackers, I want to give a shout out to Vectura Risk Management, which is at Jarrett headquarters today. I was actually meeting with them prior to doing this podcast and actually going to grab lunch with them afterwards. But, partnering with service providers such as them is also, I mean, I can't stress enough the importance of just spending the few extra bucks. When you look at the whole scope of things, it really is just a few bucks to protect that $500,000, $1 million load, 300,000, whatever,
Right. I mean, even 100,000, like
Yeah,
60
even a
bucks,
100.
like, I've saw one that was like, 60 bucks, 60 bucks
Yeah.
you can't spend on $100,000.
Right.
So I do know some people, some brokers that I know are within, depending on the shipment and whatever, they purchase those on their own, the pallet
Hmm.
trackers, and they give them to the ship, like, they'll go and visit them and whatever and give them this, "Hey, for my shipments, I need this," and that's part of their shipping contract. If you
Yep.
don't provide this, I can't go find your freight if something happens.
Yep.
I'm requiring this, I'm providing this, and a lot of times they mark up their rates to cover it even, because a lot of times shippers just they don't know what they don't know, and so they don't wanna spend the money on it, but they'll spend it in the freight, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
But when liability needs to be determined,
Mhm.
I mean, when they say no and they waive the tracking or the excess liability coverage, cargo insurance, they're taking that risk. They're going to hold the consequences, right?
Right. Yeah,
So the best we can do is educate them with what's out there, try to push them a little bit, but at the end of the day, the shippers are liable.
yeah, right, and, obviously, the problem too today is brokers are you have to have your customers, right? That's how you operate, so you don't need
Absolutely.
the customer, and so you're just like, "I'll eat it, it's worth it, I'll just pay it, whatever." But I think that's where pushing I don't necessarily think, like, pushing back where you're like, "Hey, I'm not paying for anything," right? Like, I don't care if I have your business, that's not really
Yeah,
feasible. I think
that's
it's like,
not good.
"Hey, going forward, like, this is what has to happen in order for me to be able to do your business and for me to cover your claims, because technically I didn't have to do this."
Right.
Educating them at that point, like, "Hey, I'm doing this because I wanna do business with you, but I don't have to. I don't have to pay for
Right.
this. Technically, it's yours, and I'm doing this basically, like, out of business relationship," and then educating further from that point.
100%. A lot of decisions are made based on partnerships
Mhm.
rather than maybe what their legal liability is based off contract language.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
All the
who reads
time.
the contract? Only the
Not the people that you're normally dealing with on a
right,
daily basis. I'll tell you
exactly.
that much.
Just their legal team, and they're the ones barking back about something, but
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, so what's going on with, Jarrett? What do you guys got going on this year?
Well, funny you mentioned that. We are hosting our fourth annual Jarrett Supply Chain Summit on
Oh,
August
fun.
6th at the Huntington Convention Center in downtown Cleveland, Ohio.
Love it.
And we're going to have a ton of awesome sessions with a wide variety of topics that are, top of the supply chain
Yeah,
today. AI, cargo theft prevention, international tariffs, you name it, the topic's going to be covered. I actually have the luxury again this year of moderating the cargo theft prevention panel
fun.
with the one and only Scott Cornell
I love him.
and Gary Thomas with CargoNet.
I love hearing
So
him, yeah.
we're looking forward to that. It's huge. We had over 300 attendees at last year, and we are hoping that this year reaches even more people because the
Yeah.
educational aspect of it, I'm telling you, I go to a lot of conferences and we pay to get the best people here.
Yeah.
We have Kevin O'Leary
Oh,
as our headliner this
that's
year
awesome.
with Shark Tank. So, really excited about that.
That's super exciting.
And the night before, we're actually hosting like a VIP dinner at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So all of that that's included in registration with the summit. So
Cool. Well,
yeah,
I'll make sure to add the little link information about that because I think that's a great way to go and
that would be
network. And
awesome.
I think the
Are you
biggest
heading to Rela?
no, I'm not. When is that? Is
No.
that coming up?
Rela is the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of February in
Yeah.
Orlando. I am heading there, so that is something coming up. And then we have the TLC conference in March,
I'm going to that. I'm
which
speaking
you're
there.
also doing.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yay. And then the TIA conference in April. So that's what I have coming up next.
Cool. I'm excited to see you. So TLC,
Yeah.
I'll see you, and then at TIA. I'm going to
Yeah.
Manifest too. That's I think the other one coming
Okay.
up. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. So
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I think like we've said this, I've said this before to you multiple times, but like the educational pieces that you guys do is just huge for the whole industry. And I think you guys are really making a difference. Obviously, you guys got even awarded for it. Like you guys are making a big difference, even outside of your organization. So many people keep that stuff like dear to their hearts and they don't because they want to be number one and do all the things. But I think you guys are just making such a big difference on a logistics whole scale. You're not just all about me, myself, and I. So I appreciate that.
thank you so much. We strive to do that here at Jared. So I appreciate that.
How can people find you, your company, and all that?
Sure. If you want to look into Jarrett, you can go to www.gojarrett.com or you can reach out to me personally at J Renner. So my first initial and last name at gojarrett.com. I welcome any questions, so reach out to me anytime.
She has some really great documents on SOPs, everybody. So if you want really good
And we're
SOPs,
creating more. We are working
I
on
love
getting
that.
that TAPA certification, and I tell you, that's going to be done.
That's cool. That's exciting. I need to do that too, even though I'm not a broker, but I want to do it. I want to do all the
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
Hey, it's not going to hurt anything, right?
I know, right? It's just education. The tap was great. And well, Scott's part of that too. So Scott's
Yeah.
just awesome. He's good at all the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And yeah, we'll be talking soon.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Danielle.
Yeah, for sure. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.